1.6 million square kilometers. Number 2. Good news for people who don't enjoy washing, social interaction, or a combination of the two. Australia is very, very spacious. The country has one of the lowest population densities in the world. In fact, there are 3 people for every square kilometer of land.
Okay, that's a very misleading statistic because the majority of Australians live around the coast of Australia because the largest part of Australia is its desert and it is uninhabitable. So even though it's 3 kilometers, but that is taking into consideration all the uninhabited part of Australia. So it's a very misleading statistic.
Number 3. I know what you're thinking. Sam, you daft pommy. Australia isn't even its proper name. And yes, you'd be right in saying that. The official name for the country, after all, is the Commonwealth of Australia. Number 4. The last word of that name comes from the Latin terra australis, which isn't a plant that sounds like it'd give you a nasty rash on the bottom, but does mean southern land. Which is kind of true, really, given that it's the land at the south of the world, isn't it? Look, see? South of the world. Number 5. The country is split into 8 states. Southern Australia, Western
8
Australia,
states and territories.
New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, Northern Territory, Australian Capital Territory, and Queensland. Which is what the UK should be called, really,
Yeah.
given it was named after
Territories are
Queen.
different to states.
Number 6. Along with those states,
They have different
Australia
rules.
also has a nice collection of islands too. They have the Partridgian Norfolk Island, the festive Christmas Island, the very good at listening and very tasty McDonald and Heard Islands, and the Cocos Keeling Islands.
Never been there.
Number 7. Now, I don't know about you, but I associate Australia with lovely, warm, baking weather, but it ain't all like that. In fact, the continent of Australia technically includes some of the Antarctic territory.
Yeah, because Tasmania is cold.
Quick,
Tasmania is freezing,
quiz for
apparently.
you here. What is the capital of Australia? Well done
Canberra.
to the guys who said the letter A. Hardy ha ha, very funny. But a big wrong to those who said Sydney. It's actually
Canberra.
which is a whole 153 miles away from Sydney.
Yep.
Number 9.
It's also
Other
a
cities
state
in
within a
Australia,
state.
or rather other cities people
Or
are
something
likely to
like
say
that.
The capital include Perth, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Melbourne.
Hey, Melbourne.
10. If you live in Melbourne and want to dive,
Hey, I've been there.
Well, good luck. Melbourne beat 140 other cities in the Economist's global livability ranking. Wait, that's not what livability means? Oh, okay.
We've won it a
Anyway,
couple times,
it's had
actually.
this title for a whopping 6 years
Yeah.
in a row since 2011. Number
Had it for a while,
11.
which is funny because you can see drug addicts all the
country's
time.
population is over 24 million Aussies. 380,000 of those people live in Canberra.
Yep.
There's also over 60 million kangaroos too, not to be confused, by the way, with the local populace. They don't like that. Take it from experience. And a black
What?
eye. Number 12.
I don't even get that joke.
61.1% of the population are Christian, 2.5% are
Yeah.
Buddhist, 2.2 Muslim, and
Yep.
1.3 Hindu. Not sure
Yep.
how many are Jedi or Grootist though. What, Grootist? Oh yeah, that's the new religion now. Didn't you know? I am Groot.
Sounds about right.
Number 13.
This is all census
The
data at the
incredibly
moment.
difficult to pronounce Mount Kosciuszko is the highest mountain in Australia, standing at a whopping 7,310 feet. Number 14. Popular landmark that also sounds like an alien race, Uluru, is also known as Ayers.
Okay. It's Uluru. And the British name for it was Ayers Rock. Because the British discovery guy, whoever found it, was called Ayers. His last name was Ayers something. But Uluru is the traditional landowner's name. And it's Uluru, not whatever the hell he just said.
Popular landmark that also sounds like an alien race, Uluru,
Uluru? No, it's Uluru. It's Uluru, bro. It's Uluru.
is also known as Ayers Rock. It
Ayers
can be found
Rock.
standing around doing absolutely nothing right in the centre of the country, and at 2,000
It's also... we only see the outside of the rock, but it actually goes underground. It's actually over half of it's like underground.
131 feet, or just over 470 Hugh Jackmans, it's the world's largest rock.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
And you're not allowed to
Stonehenge.
climb it anymore.
It's not the size that matters anyway.
Yeah, really.
Number 15. Just off the coast of Queensland in the Coral Sea is the Great Barrier Reef.
Yep.
The reason why it's so great is
Because I already know why. The Great Barrier the Great Barrier Reef has the last of some like barrier reef animals. Like there's some animals and some bacteria, or what do they call that broccoli looking stuff, that only exist in the Great Barrier Reef. And
it's because it's the world's largest coral reef system, and it's made up of over 2,900 different reefs.
yeah, some of the coral there literally doesn't exist anywhere else. It is literally they're all on the endangered list. Some of the coral.
Number 16. The reef stretches over 2,300 kilometers and has probably appeared on your Facebook feed at least 21 times in the past decade, am I right? It's so massive it can be seen from space and is the biggest structure made by a living organism. Except actually, no, I'm not going to make that joke. I'm a better man than that. Number 17. Even though the national language is English, over 200 different languages are spoken in the country, including Italian, Cantonese, Arabic, and Mandarin.
Yep.
Number 18.
Mandarin being a significant one, like a lot of people.
Australia has a vast and frankly at times deadly ecosystem, with many unique creatures and plants that don't appear anywhere else in the world.
Yep.
Like rare Pokemon that only appeared in red and not blue. I mean, that was irritating, wasn't it? Anyway, these include wombats, dingoes, kangaroos, koalas, platypus, and wallabies.
Another name for a platypus is a duck-billed platypus.
Number 19. Kangaroos can be eaten. Yeah. Sorry, Joey.
Yeah, we
It's
eat them.
actually considered a leaner and healthier alternative to beef and lamb.
It's just really expensive.
Tasty.
It's expensive meat.
Number 20. As well as kangaroo meat being available over the counter, you can also get crocodile meat and emu. And from the sounds of the next fact,
I've never had crocodile or emu, so I don't know where he's getting that from, but I've never had
Number
it.
21. Emus must be quite an aggressive bunch because in 1932
We
there was
went to
actually
war
the
with them.
Emu War.
Yeah, we went to
I
war
know.
with them.
Allow me to tell you the
I
tale.
know, we lost as well.
Number 22.
The Great Emu War was pretty much what happened was there were a lot of emus going around destroying farmland. So we got like our military and stuff to start killing them, but we couldn't kill them all fast enough. Well, I mean, we like reduced their number. There's actually yeah. The Great Emu War, wildlife, address the public's concern of the number of emus said to be running amok and destroying crops. So, yeah, we tried to kill them all, but we lost. We couldn't do it. We literally couldn't kill them all, or at least settle the dispute. There's a whole Wikipedia page. 90 years ago, yeah. And it was mainly like it was just farmers from what I was like worried about. Like, they were having an issue. No, he's gonna say.
Of emus throughout Western Oz.
There you go.
Flocks of the 6-foot-tall bird would destroy masses of farming crops and land in a brutal attack on resources and supply lines.
Yep.
Actually, it was more because they were hungry and they were there, but still, who knows what's going on in those nefarious bird brains. Number 23. To combat the problem, ex-World War I soldiers were hired in the war against emus armed with guns. However, this didn't work and the farmers requested more assistance from the soldiers but were denied. Eventually, bounties were put on emus' heads and this seemed to work as over 57,000 bounties were claimed in total. Number 24. There's also some pretty scary creepy crawlies, in particular, sorry arachnophobes, but spiders! Dun dun dun! There's over 1,500 species of spiders throughout the country and some of them have pretty gross venom. Number 25.
Yeah, but to be fair, you only run into like a handful of them when you live in the city, like, or in the Melbourne. Like, the most common one you see is daddy longlegs, which is this one. Legs. This spider here. You'll find this spider in your house like every other day, but you can pick them up, you can play with them, like they don't bite, and if they do bite you, they're not poisonous. So, yeah.
The deadliest spiders in the world can be found in Australia. The redback spider and the Sydney funnel web spider are among the most poisonous and
Okay, the redback spiders you do gotta look out for, but like I've rarely seen them.
spiders in the world.
You don't pick those ones up, and everybody knows you don't touch the redbacks.
You'd think with that kind of thing going on, the death toll for these things would be huge,
Yeah.
right?
No, you just avoid 'em.
No, actually. In fact, apart from one case in 2016, nobody has died thanks to an arachnid in over 40 years in Australia. 40 years?
Yeah.
Number
You just know which ones to go to. Like it's common knowledge. Like you see one that's all black with a red stripe on it. Okay, don't touch that. You see a daddy longlegs, you just pick it up and put it outside. Like even kids know. Like it's just like known from
In
birth.
fact,
You just know not to mess
horses
with it.
and cows are actually more likely to kill you over there, with them being responsible for over 100 deaths in the past 10 years. So be afraid of these guys. Be very afraid. Look at the blood in their eyes.
Horses kick you in the head and you
Number
die. Same with
28.
cows.
That being said, however, Australia does have an awful lot of snakes in
Yeah,
it,
okay.
making it a place that Indiana Jones probably doesn't want to visit anytime soon.
Yeah,
There
snakes
is, in
hide.
total,
That's the problem
140
with
different
snakes.
species of snake lurking in Australia.
They
Number
hide in the
39.
grass, and you step on them and they
Particular
bite you.
little
It's just
slippery
sad.
arseholes to look out for include the eastern brown snakes, which are responsible for the most snake deaths out of any of them. It's also rated second in the world in terms of toxicity.
I've never seen them.
Number 30. Yes, snakes are scary, and yes, that one, is killy. But actually, though, it's not quite as bad as you think. While, yes, snakes can kill, between 2010 and 2016, only 35 people died due to snakes nibbling on them.
The thing with snakes is, like, if you just don't annoy them, they're fine. And they always give you plenty of warning when they're going to attack. Like, unless you're unless you accidentally step on one, which does happen, like, you're not going to get hurt by a snake. They're not going to attack you if you just leave them alone. And they will give you warnings, they will hiss at you, and it's always the same idiots. They go up and they think they can play with it, they like master a snake or whatever. It's like, no, just let it go.
Number 31. Once again, something else is more dangerous than snakes that you may not first think of. Bees and wasps. Almost 42,000 admissions to hospital between 2000 and 2013 were down to these bumbling bastards and
I've only been
anaphylactic
stung by a bee
shocks.
once,
Oh,
but never
they're so evil. Look at them.
Yeah, anaphylactic shock. So people that are allergic to bees are getting stung by them.
32.
Obviously, that's gonna
In
do
fact,
some
even
damage.
more than bees, you should be scared of thunderstorms. In November of 2016, rising temperatures in Melbourne started a thunderstorm, which in turn caused a mass thunderstorm asthma event.
I remember that. Everybody started getting asthma. It was the funniest thing because they've got baby lungs. But no, it's really common during the summer to have thunderstorms because of the constant dry heat causes all the electricity to build up in the clouds or whatever. So that's common.
Number 33. Over 8,000 people were admitted to hospital because of the thunderstorm, and over 9 people died due to asthma.
Asthma is an issue breathing. The bronchiolitis or whatever it is in your lungs. They start to swell up and you can't process oxygen or something like that. Usually just have an inhaler. It's like a little puffer thing about this big. You just like that and you're good. The inhaler actually has steroids in it, and the steroids helps your lungs open up or whatever. But yeah, people are born with it.
This kind of thunderstorm has happened 5 times in Australia's history. Number 34. Also, be careful of koala bears too, because, well, it's not as bad as death, yes, but you can get chlamydia from them, and
Yeah.
no, not in the means you're thinking of. And
All of them, all koalas in Australia have
frankly, if you're thinking
chlamydia.
of that, you deserve to get it in that way too. You can actually get koala bear chlamydia if you get exposed to the infected creature's urine.
Yeah.
Number 35. Australia is 14 hours ahead of the US, and seasons are, to us in Europe and the States,
Opposite.
all the wrong way round too.
Yep.
Summer is December to February, autumn or fall is March to May, winter is June to August, and spring is September to November. Number 36. This means Christmas is
Let's go back a second. I thought I knew what that place was, but I don't.
November. Number 36.
A town triggered an asthma attack through lightning. No, the lightning storm triggered asthma attacks throughout the house, throughout the state. It dried out the air or something like that.
This means Christmas is in summertime for Australia.
And it
but
lasted for like a week or two.
there aren't really any massive differences into how it's celebrated. Santa might have to wear a mankini when he goes down there, though. However, for Christmas dinner, instead of turkey, Aussies apparently eat prawns, and lots of them.
Yeah, I don't understand why we eat
Number
prawns,
37.
but yeah, we do.
It was reported by the University of Sydney that at Bondi Beach in Sydney, 40,000 people visited the beach on Christmas Day. Oh man, imagine that. That sounds good, but sand in all the presents. Number 38. In fact, in a record only they could probably ever win, Australia won the world record for the most number of surfing Santas at any one time. If you want to try and beat that record, by the way, it's 320 Santas you need, just in case you want to try.
That's such a silly.
Felix, though.
Guinness World Book of
39.
Records went downhill
It's
hard.
a slight cliche, yes, but Aussies love alcohol. Around 1.35 trillion bottles of wine are produced by the country, and in 2012, it was estimated that Australians spend over 14.1 billion Australian dollars each year on alcohol. No, not in.
So, just as a clear thing, I've never had alcohol a day in my life. I will say it is part of youth culture to drink, and it's very typical for like older people to have like a beer when they retire and whatever. Something that is very prevalent is we have something in Australia called goon. And what it is I never actually knew what it is, but I knew goon was alcohol. But we can get wine in these like little crates, and in these crates are a bag, and you twist the end of it and the wine comes out. So they're called goon bags, which is essentially just a bag of wine. And yeah, you just drink them at parties and stuff and get completely wasted. We call them goon bags. That's just a thing, but you wouldn't really see like old people doing that. It's like 16, like underage drinking, 16 to like 30 or however long people are in school.
Individually, by the way.
But yeah, I've never had alcohol, so I'm a very rare case. But it is a lot. There is a part of the
Number
culture.
40. In fact, former Prime Minister Bob Hawke was actually in the Guinness Book of World Records in 1954 in his academia days for beer guzzling. He managed to slurp down 2.5 pints of beer in 11 seconds. God, 11 seconds? We like to drink with Bob, because Bob is our mate. Sorry, I just realised only a certain age of people in Britain will understand what I just did there. My bad. Number 41. They loved to drink so much that in 1965, Thomas Angro from South Australia invented the wine cask, aka wine in a box, which can hold up to 1 gallon of wine. The meaning
It's literally just a bag in the box. It's a goon bag.
of life. According to worldatlas.com, obesity is a little bit of an issue in Australia.
Yeah,
It's ranked
by
as the 26th
percentage.
most obese country in the world, with 29.9% of the country being overweight.
Yeah.
Huh, I thought kangaroo was meant to be leaner and better for you.
That's by a percentage thing. So technically we have less people than the US in terms of people who are classed as overweight, but it's a greater percentage in Australia than the US.
Number 43. Those furry boots that make you
And
sound like a
definitely less
caveman
extreme
or a
in some
hipster 5
cases.
years ago, Ugg boots originate from Australia. They were given the name after the creator's wife told them they were ugly, apparently.
I don't
Number
own Ugg
44.
boots.
The first supposed recorded sighting of the country was by the Dutch in 1606. Dutch navigator Wilhelm Jan Zoon sailed to meet with the Aborigines. The Dutch charted and mapped the whole of the western and northern coastline and named the continent New Holland. But they had no intention of settling. Bit like my ex-girlfriend. Number 45. According to historian Gavin Menzies, the Chinese, led by Admiral Zheng, had already beaten them to it in around 1420. Number 46. Clearly not happy letting the Dutch and the Chinese have all the fun, Captain James Cook of England then sailed over in 1770. He mapped the east coast, which he named New South Wales, and claimed it for the British Empire. What can I say, we were greedy back then. Number 47. The British government then sent ships to New South Wales. See, look at them go. Whee!
And they're
When they
full of
settled,
prisoners.
Well, they probably put the kettle on first, but then after that, a flag was raised on Sydney Cove on the 26th of January, 1788. Number 48. In case you recognise the date of the 26th of January, Australians, it's Ellen DeGeneres' birthday, but also the country's National
Australia Day. Public holiday.
Number 49. The indigenous population was between 75,000 and 1 million in 1788. But
Yeah, this is
declined
not the
over
good part of the
150 years
history.
Following the settlement. Many died because of disease, but many were also killed in conflict with the new settlers.
Yeah, we tried to wipe them
Number
out.
50.
Quite literally.
The British used to send their convicts and felons all the way over to Australia to prevent overcrowding in British prisons. However, you didn't really have to do all that much to warrant the penalty of being sent to the New World. Petty crimes like stealing used to get you killed, but instead they just relocated you to the other side of the world. Number 51. More horrible crimes, like, vicious murder, would still be punishable by death. So actually, it was mainly people like thieves and people who had damaged property who would be sent there rather than the worst of the worst. Wait, why are we showing a picture of Suicide Squad? They're not even that bad. Number 52. The prisoners were sent in hulks. No, not that one, and also in. Ew. Hulks were huge transportation ships. 300 convicts could be crammed inside the 65-metre-long boat for the 4-month journey.
Oh,
Many
Christ.
people on board died because of diseases such as typhoid and cholera, and there was probably very poor on-board entertainment. Number 53. In all, around 164,000 convicts were sent to Australia between 1788 and 1868. Number 54. On an unrelated note, in 1851, Australia had a gold rush and went gold crazy. This began by Edward Hargraves discovering a grain of gold in a watering hole near Bathurst.
That's why a lot of our government buildings have are painted with gold. They have gold little bits here and there. But it also is the reason why we have such a large Chinese populace, because Australia at this point was very, very Christian, and Christians don't work on Sundays. So instead, gold miners and gold companies or whatever would hire Chinese immigrants, and they literally helped build Australia. It's quite amazing, actually, learning that bit of the history. Obviously, the whole murdering of Indigenous people isn't exactly something anybody's real proud of, but the gold rush really helped Australia. It gave us our wealth. It was really handy.
Many immigrants from all over the world hoping to cash in on the gold.
Yep.
There's now about 1 million websites that do that for you, so you're only, 166 years late? Number 55. They have a lot of...
It's also why, like, our colours are gold and green. Green for the land, gold for the gold.
Longest evers in Oz. For example, Australia has the longest railway track at 480 kilometres.
And the longest fence. What, she's going to say the longest fence.
And the longest ever fence.
There it is.
That runs for 5,400 kilometres starting at Queensland to South Australia.
Yeah. It's to keep the dingoes out, trust. To keep
Number
the dingoes
56.
out.
The country has a very long sporting history, but does not officially have a national sport.
Yeah.
The most popular are
The problem is, it's like the Western Australia is like, what's it called? They have rugby, I think. In Melbourne, we have AFL, which is football, Australian rules football, or Aussie rules football, depending on what you want to call it. And then everywhere else is like cricket. So,
cricket, rugby league, and Australian rules football.
there you go.
I wonder what that is.
Interestingly, the majority of the teams for AFL football is they're all Melbourne based because it started forming in Melbourne. So the majority of teams in the AFL are places in Melbourne, like Essendon. Crap, now I'm not going to remember. Collingwood, just a whole bunch. The majority of them. You can look it up. Look it up.
Number 57. Well past Sam from a few seconds ago, Australian rules football, also known as Australian football, dates back to the 19th century and looks very similar to rugby, but they can pick up the ball.
It's nothing
I
like
don't understand
rugby.
it either. Mind you, I barely understand
It's
soccer
nothing like
half the
rugby.
times anyway. Number 58.
Historians have also pushed the date or the creation of Aussie rules football back to Indigenous landowners. So apparently, from what I've been told in school, the earliest recorded, or at least the earliest known form of AFL was played by Indigenous people. So there's that.
The Ashes are a test cricket series that is exclusively played between England and Australia, and is a topic that will surely start an argument with any man from either country.
World's
over the age of
smallest
50.
trophy.
The first commenced in 1883, and so far total wins are a draw, with each country winning 32 series each.
Hey.
Number 59. The urn, the trophy of the Ashes, contains the ashes of a cricket bale, not a dead relative or anything. That would be awful. It was speculated for many years, though, that it was the ashes of Lord Darnley's mother-in-law, which makes the whole sport a hell of a lot weirder if they were playing for dead women's remains. Ugh. Number 60. The Australian box jellyfish is known as the world's most venomous marine animal.
If they're going to say we pee on our legs to stop the venom, they're completely right. They're going to say we pee on legs to stop the venom from the boxhead jellyfish. They're right.
Animal known to mankind. A touch of its tentacles can make a human experience cardiac arrest within minutes, a bit like me with women. Number 61. They also have the world's
Oh, they're not
happiest
gonna say
animal,
it.
the
Okay.
quokka. Oh, they are descendants of wallabies and koalas known as marsupials. And they're also the size of a domestic cat, and they're also so cute. I mean, look at it. Oh. Number 62. Australia seems to love poker. The country is home to 20% of the world's poker machines, and across 2003 and 4, gamblers lost 16.21 billion Aussie dollars.
I think that's something that just got lost in translation there. Because when we say pokey machines or poker machines, we actually mean these. We actually mean slot machines. A term we use is pokies, which means, you know, you'd go down to your RSL, which is essentially just a bar. And they have these slot machines, or we call them pokies. So we're not actually, I don't believe, playing poker a lot. We do have casinos, but we do refer to slot machines as pokies. So you'd be saying, I'm going to play pokies, you know? So I think that statistic is something that just got lost in translation there. I'm not 100%, but it would make more sense that we're talking about pokies. And if I actually type in, because it's Australian Google, pokies, you'll actually see that it comes up. And just to show you I'm not lying, yeah. So I think that statistic is lost in translation.
We owe great thanks to the country for many, many things, including the word selfie. The word first appeared in an online ABC, that's Australian Broadcasting
Channel,
forum
okay.
post, where a drunk user uploaded a self-portrait, also known as a selfie. Nintendo 64. The word was named International Word of the Year 2013 by Oxford Dictionaries, and in 2016, 24 billion selfies were uploaded to Google. Wow, we are a vain bunch, aren't we? Thanks, Aussies, for pointing that out. Number 65. Bushfires and forest fires are very common in the country because of the heat,
they are.
but some of the trees can actually explode.
The gum trees.
Eucalyptus trees
Oh, the
produce
eucalyptus,
flammable oil, so when there's a forest fire, then boom goes the dynamite.
Koalas eat them and get high.
Tree.
Unless I'm thinking of gum trees.
66.
It's same old.
In 1975,
Same old,
the
same old.
country's government got into a budget squabble to the point the government couldn't be funded anymore. The Queen, or rather the Queen's official representative, Sir John Kerr, resolved this government shutdown by just firing the Prime Minister outright.
Yeah.
Number 67. This new Prime Minister essentially dismissed every single person from Parliament too, meaning there were new elections and it was basically the political equivalent of a reset switch. That's what you get when you mess with Queen Liz. Should be said, by the way, government has never shut down again since.
Literally the way it works is, if you boys can't make up your mind, nobody gets it.
Number 68.
That's what happens.
Green ants can also be found in Australia, as well as in a surprising amount of stuff too. They're
Green
used as
ants.
an ingredient to accompany things like lemonade and goat's cheese. A new gin is even being launched this year, which includes green ants as the main ingredients.
I've never heard of that in a day in my life. That has to be some real exclusive stuff, because I never heard of it.
Rather stereotypically, Crocodile Dundee is Australia's highest grossing film at 47 million Australian dollars.
Not even
This
an
is
Australian
more than double
film.
Australian mega smash Mad Max Fury Road, which garnered 21 million
And Mad
Aussie
Max
dollars.
Fury Road is an Australian film.
Number 70.
It is an Australian
Rather
franchise.
lamely, the second highest grossing film ever is the Hugh Jackman drama named Australia. Babe is third. Oh, Babe.
Babe's a good movie.
Number 71. The best-selling single in Australia, however, is
Oh, okay. It's a comedy single, Australiana. I'm pretty sure it's Australiana.
Babe-like at all. It is instead LMFAO's understated and subtle masterpiece.
Oh, I thought he was gonna say like Australian. I thought he was gonna say it's an Australian. What's it called? An Australian single by an Australian artist. But that makes sense.
Instead, LMFAO's understated and subtle masterpiece, Party Rock Anthem, at over 1 million sales across the country. Number 72. This is closely followed
If you haven't checked out Australiana, definitely check it out.
by Candle in the Wind 1997 by Elton John, the song he re-released and sang specifically for Princess Diana after she died. Wow, that got beaten by Party Rockin' in the House Tonight. Princess Di is probably shuffling in her grave. Oh, I don't, that might be too harsh. Number 73. Australia is known for being quite strict in terms of censorship in movies, TV, and video games. Several video games have actually been completely banned outright in Australia, including
We ban a lot of games, but we've gotten better at it. We've got not better at banning, but better at letting things slide or slightly alter them. It's
Miami
fine.
2, wrong number.
Still better than
Jesse
China.
Murray, Magna Cum Laude, and Manhunt.
Yep.
Number 74. One such title that was partially censored was South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Yep.
Which was banned because of a particular scene involving, well, there's no other way to say it, anal.
It wasn't banned, it was censored. There's a difference between banning something and censoring something. Elements of South Park: The Stick of Truth, and I know because I played that game, I played the Australian version. When it got censored, all they did was put up a screen with a koala on it saying that due to the Australian government rules or whatever, we aren't allowed to show you this scene. And that happened during like the anal probe scene and the abortion scene. Something I found really interesting was you can just look it up on YouTube and see it. So I don't know how that worked, but it's whatever.
Anal probing. It was instead replaced with this image of
There
a
you go.
koala crying because, of course, it was.
There you go.
Number 75. Let me tell you a little story. One morning in 1967, the then Prime Minister Harold Holt went to Cheviot.
He went for a swim and he never came back. And we don't know what happened to Harold Holt. We don't know. We never got any answers. He literally went out for a swim like he does every other day and he never came back.
Beach in Victoria. Holt decided to go swimming despite the heavy tide because why
He would always go swimming. Apparently he loved going swimming.
not? Well, here's why not. He then completely disappeared out of view without a sound or a trace. Number
We never even found a body. We never even found a body. It's insane.
76. There was a range of wild theories about what happened to Holt. Some thought a shark attack, some thought a CIA assassination, some even thought Chinese submarines got to him. Number 77. Eventually, though, 40
He was the leader of our country.
years
It's so
later,
strange.
authorities have concluded he simply drowned.
Yeah.
And his body was never found.
Never found him.
Maybe that's something for
We don't know.
Autumn Connie.
Maybe the Chinese did get him. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's such a silly part of Australian history. There was a leader of our country, and he just... We don't know.
To tackle at some point. Damn,
Oh,
so
God.
scary.
Could you imagine if that happened to, like, a US president? Could you imagine if Biden just went out for a walk and then nobody... Where'd he go? Like, that's literally what just happened. It's insane.
Number 78. By the way, in case you're wondering how many beaches there are, the University of Sydney counted 10,685 beaches throughout the country. Got 10,685 problems, but a beach
Yeah, but some of them are really gross and disgusting.
ain't one.
Some of them are really bad. Like, some of them you just don't go to because there'll be, like, needles and stuff in the sand.
Number 79. The fish industry is now a multi-billion-dollar business in Australia. It's clearly a big part of their diet. In fact, they consume around 16 kilograms per person of fish each year. Number 80. The Christmas Islands can get a bit nippy, and no, I don't mean the weather, lol. I mean the crabs. There are 120 million red crabs living in the forest who then walk back into the sea for wet season. Number 81. Before it was named
Okay, I'm just going to stop there because Christmas Island is something that's actually very important with Australia. We have a lot of immigration in Australia, and a lot of it's very legal. Now, I got to toe the line here because it's very, very politically charged and whatever. And when I was in high school, it was a very idea. But the main thing is, I'm going to bring up some things so I can say some things that might get me in trouble, but we're going to work our way around it. So, the term boat people is used, or was used in Australia a lot, but it refers to more Vietnamese refugees. So essentially what they would do is get on a boat and head to Australia. They have no information, they have no ID, all they had is a boat, and they would come here in, and they would, I don't know the exact statistics on here, but you can have it read. And this was a very, 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 very hot area of discussion in Australia during, like, I don't know, 2012 onwards, because they would come here and we don't know what to do with them. There's the political side, which is, while these people are refugees, they're fleeing from a country, they're like, we have to by the UN to take them in, but it's just like, well, then the other side of the coin is, well, we can't let everybody in. What happens if they're the ones that were, like, what if they're murderers or something like that? So it was all this. So Christmas Island, what Christmas Island is known for now, despite its amazing name, is what we inevitably do is now we just send them back. So if the Coast Guard pick up a Vietnamese boat full of refugees, we literally just say, go back, turn them away. But what we also use Christmas Island for is actually a processing center where thousands of people, thousands of these refugees, essentially, Christmas Island refugee detention center. Essentially what we do, and here's an image of it, is we ship them here, and this could take, I think it's up to like 5 years, and we track down the people's names, we whatever, like we find out who these people are, and then after 5 or 6 years or however long they're there for, we then let them into Australia. So they actually go here and be processed. This is 2008. So this was a thing that happened. Legal proceedings, it's closure. So in 2018, they stopped doing it because they just started sending them back. But that's what Christmas Island is particularly. That's why I know Christmas Island exists, because this was all a big deal. And it's not too long ago. It's reopening. It was announced in 2019. Coronavirus quarantine, riots. Like, yeah, Christmas Island is... It's a political debate.
Melbourne was shortly called Batmania. This isn't just because they love.
We also have a road called Batman. We also have it's like a highway or something. I passed it, but we have Batman as well.
Bats, although I don't know if they do. But it was actually
We do have
named
bats.
after one of its founders and a man with frankly the coolest name
I should say
ever.
the bats in Australia are the only animals that have rabies. Our dogs don't have rabies. Like, I've never met an animal with rabies, but our bats have rabies. We don't know why.
John Batman.
They just do.
Number 82. Batmania, oh fine, I'll call it Melbourne, is actually quite a progressive place apparently. For instance, it started Australia's first gay and lesbian radio in 1993 called Joy Radio.
Never listened to it.
Number 83. If you
Never
want to
listened
know
to
some hot Australian words, well, here are some. Cotton candy or
Cotton candy is fairy floss. This was discussed on stream a little while ago.
candy floss, as we call it in the UK, is known as fairy floss in Australia. We
Yeah,
also
fairy
call
floss.
all
Sweets, lollies.
other sweets, or candy as you Americans call it, lollies.
Yeah, lollies.
Number 84.
No, I thought there was going to be
Rather
more.
confusingly, two flip-flops over
They're called thongs.
there are called thongs.
Thank you. They're called
It's
thongs.
just a mistake waiting to happen, isn't
And
it?
thongs are called bikinis. Thank you very much.
Number 85. The hottest temperature ever recorded
Thongs, US, are bikinis in Australia.
in the Oz was 50.7
Yeah, I know, it's
degrees
weird.
Celsius. That's
It's weird.
100
When I was younger, I actually used to get it confused because I didn't know.
3 Fahrenheit, by the way. The lowest was minus 23 degrees, which is minus 9.4 Fahrenheit, also known as the temperature where your nipples become lethal weapons. Number 86. There is a myth that the word kangaroo comes from the Gugu Yimithir, an Aboriginal language, phrase for I don't understand you. It's said when Captain Cook was
I've never heard that at all.
exploring the land, he asked natives what the animal was called. They replied, kangaroo, also known as I don't understand you, which he then thought was the name of the animal. What a great story. Unfortunately, it was debunked in 1970.
Yeah, 1970. Dude, I've never even heard of that story. Never heard of it. Never heard of that story.
Number 87. Pom or pommy is Aussie slang
For English person.
English or sometimes British people. So
And it's not necessarily a negative way to describe somebody, but it's not like a nice way. You know, like if I had a mate called, like, let's assume I have a mate called John, right? I call him Pommy. He's a pom. He's a whinging pom. They're the term. That's how you describe it. It's like a playful, but like it's not necessarily a nice way to refer to someone. But it's playful, depending on your context.
a hello from Pommy Island. It apparently originates from
Yeah, usually when you're making fun of them a little bit.
being short for pomegranate, which in itself is rhyming slang for immigrant. Oh, come on, guys. That
Yeah.
doesn't even remotely rhyme. What about, immigrant? Yeah,
It's
no,
not
I
like a
can't think
nice
anything
way of
now,
saying
there
it,
are better
but you know,
ones
if you
out
love
there,
someone,
surely.
you call them a pom or a whinging pom. It's usually how it
Country
is.
home to many innovators and inventors, as well as spiders and crabs, so that's nice. The black box on aeroplanes was invented by Dr. David Warren of Australia. The notepad was invented by J.A. Birchall, also of Australia. And the dual flush toilet by Bruce Thompson of Australia.
Hey,
Number 89. Actually, in 1856, Victoria and South Australia were the
They're the
first
same
to introduce
thing.
the secret ballot, the idea of voting in secret little booths which are considerably more
Oh.
secure. This spread to Europe, the UK, and the US by 1884, so woo! Privacy and democracy.
it's also mandatory for every Australian above the age of 18 to vote. If you do not vote in Australia and you're above the age of 18 and an Australian citizen or whatever, if you meet the requirements to vote and you don't vote, you get fined. They will fine you. They will take money out of your account. They will find you and fine you. Just so you know.
Number 90. Anzac Day is a national anniversary for the first military
Australia and New Zealand, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps.
action of
Army
Australia
Corps.
and New Zealander troops in World War One.
Yeah.
It's on the 25th of April, by the way, in case you want to pop that down in your diary.
And everybody takes this seriously. Everybody. Even in schools, we have a whole minute silence. They play an announcement over the speakers in school. They say we are now going to do a moment of silence, and we take a moment of silence to remember.
Number 91.
So the Anzac Day is a big thing, and we have a march. Every state will do an Anzac march or wherever. My brother's in the army as well, so he does his. It's a thing. It's a big thing.
Boomerangs were invented and used as a weapon by the Aborigines. Yep, you're welcome.
Yep, they're designed to come back to you, but more so snap the neck of a kangaroo.
Harkness. The boomerangs were used for hunting, so if your projectile missed, it would zip right back your way anyway.
Yeah. And it is surprisingly difficult. Like, I've only had a really good couple of goes around it, but it is surprisingly difficult to get these things to come back. Unless you've got like a super scientific one where they've streamlined it to make it easy. But a traditional boomerang is actually pretty hard to get back. I couldn't do it.
Number 92.
Plus, they're super scary when they're coming back at you. Like, to catch them is scary because, like, they hurt. It's wood.
A sweet, somber, and
a didgeridoo.
Sound of the didgeridoo is also another invention by the Aboriginals. Nobody quite knows where it came from, but depending on who's looking at it, it can have up to 14 different names.
Another thing is, like, with Indigenous culture, things are taken very seriously in Australia. Some of it, like with me talking about it because I'm a white guy or a white British person, or maybe I'm Irish, I don't know. But like stuff like the didgeridoo are very, very important to Indigenous people. And what I'm trying to get at is, if I was to buy and then start playing a didgeridoo at like a show or something like that, and I was not Indigenous, I would get in a lot of trouble from society. It would also cause a huge debate, and it has caused a huge debate before, but definitely stuff about Indigenous culture in Australia is always a very hot topic, and playing, for someone like me to just start playing a didgeridoo will offend people. That's all I'll say about that.
Number 93. Traditionally, only men can play the instrument at ceremonial occasions, though there are some women didgeridooers who play it informally. Those rebels, crushing the patriarchy one didgeridoo at a time.
Like, if this woman was not Indigenous, this would be an outcry. There would be a lot. There would be in the news.
The dream time is the Aboriginal belief of the creation of life. Aborigines call the beginning of time the dreaming and believe that their ancestors rose from the ground and formed parts of nature like water, animals, and the sky.
I will say some of the Dreamtime stories are actually very nice. Like I love what they're called. I love religious belief stories and like that. Like I like stories from the Bible. I like flying spaghetti monsters. I enjoy Norse mythology and all that sort of stuff. And some of the Dreamtime stories are actually pretty interesting. They are pretty fun.
On those ancestors, I mean, look at it. It looks great. Well, good job, guys. Number 95. Whales, the animal, not the country, were an important totem for certain groups of Aboriginal people. They considered them a holy resource, and they used their fat to make utensils and bones to make weapons. Number 90.
Also, less discussed nowadays, but depending on where you live in Australia and whether you're Indigenous or not, turtles for the most part are turtles for the most part are endangered. Depends on the species of tortoise or turtle, I forget the exact one, but it's actually legal for some Indigenous individuals, depending on where they are and their background, to actually eat turtle eggs. Yeah, it's illegal pretty much. Like, I'm not allowed to do it. I'm not Indigenous, but depending on the background of the individual, there are exceptions to where they can do stuff like that, which is it's different. Towing the line, not passing judgment, but it is interesting. It is interesting. They actually have a whole channel in Australian TV that's free to air. Free to air TV is just, it's free for everybody. You don't need a permit. You don't need to pay anything. As long as you've got a TV and an antenna, you're good. Called what is it? I forget the. We have SBS, which is Special Broadcasting Channel, ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Channel, and there's a new one, which is, I always forget the name of it. It's like Indigenous TV or something like that. And it's strictly for Indigenous people. It tells Indigenous stories and all that sort of stuff. It's not strictly for them. Like, anybody can watch it, but it's strictly about Indigenous studies, essentially. And I remember watching a video of I remember watching the channel and seeing how they do it, how they find where they've planted where the turtles planted the eggs, and they go through and they just pick them out, and then they go along. It's interesting.
26. Like kangaroo, the names dingo, koala, and wombat
A
all
dingo.
originate from the Aboriginal language too.
Yep. Another thing as well with Melbourne and names is everything has three sort of we usually name things after three types of things. So in terms of street signs, streets, avenues, roads, and all that stuff, they are usually named after footballers in Melbourne. At least this is strictly Melbourne. They're either named after ex-footballers that were popular, Indigenous words, and I think royalty is the third one. But usually, for the most part, we try to name things like street signs and stuff after those three things, which is why we have interesting names. Like we have Nunawanning. I'm trying to think of places where I haven't lived, but they're just little
Number 97.
nitbit there.
The Aboriginals are also an artistic bunch too. Caves were decorated with bright Aboriginal art, which forms images with small dots and carving, telling stories of their families and moments in time. And they're very pretty.
The Batman Highway. I mean, well, Batman's named after somebody, but yeah, the Batman Highway. It's actually named after somebody. Also, another thing with Indigenous painting, because they are talking about it, during 2014, 2015, 2016, there was a lot of debate about what actually is Indigenous painting, because stereotypically, when we think, or when somebody would think of Indigenous painting, this is what they would believe. But modern Indigenous painters, people who live right now, don't necessarily paint like this. Instead, they'll paint like murals and stuff like that. So is their painting are these people doing modern paintings that are Indigenous? Are their paintings classed as Indigenous paintings, or is this what we consider Indigenous painting? Just an area of debate. I'm neither here nor there. I don't care. But it was an area of debate. At least when I was in high school, it was something people spoke about.
Pretty, aren't they?
So keep in mind, yes, this is Indigenous painting, but in a modern context, it can be difficult to define quote unquote Indigenous painting. I'd argue that just saying an Indigenous painting is probably not an accurate description. Similar how pop music isn't actually an accurate description of any genre of music at all. But we'll keep watching.
Number 98. Even though the British adverts for it clearly state that
Foster's doesn't exist.
Foster's lager is enjoyed throughout Australia, it isn't.
Yeah. I've never seen anybody drink a Foster. I've never seen anybody buy a Foster's drink. I don't even think they exist in Australia.
You prefer stuff like Victoria Bitter. That's right.
Victorian Bitter, yeah, people drink it, but I've heard it doesn't taste very good. I've never had it. But definitely within the circles I've associated with, I don't know anybody who drinks it.
Britain, we've been sold a lie.
Yeah.
Number 99. Despite its peaky bits I was talking about earlier, and no, I'm not on about the hard nipples again, it's the lowest and flattest country in the world. The lowest point is Lake Eyre, 15 miles beneath sea level, and their highest is Mount Kosciuszko. Number 100. Pretty stones, known as opals, that really do look like what I imagine infinity stones look like in real life, primarily come from Australia. In fact, 95% of them do. Number 101. Well done for making it this far in the video if you're from Australia. Not because of the content, I mean. That's high quality. But I mean because of the internet. Australia, apparently, is very well known for having very, very poor internet connection speed.
It's funny because it's true. It's so true. It sucks. It's so bad in Australia. It's so bad.
They're ranked 51st in the world when it comes to internet speed, with a rate of 8.5 megabytes per second.
That's if you're lucky. That's if you're lucky. I live in the city, so I could actually get decent internet, but you drive 2 hours outside of the city, and it is arse. It's so shit. It hurts because it's true. Dude, you don't understand. Like, I live in the city and I can get decent internet, right? I live in the city. You go 2 hours, 2 hour drive out of the city and it is arse. This 8 megabyte, whatever he's talking about, that's an average for everywhere, right? When I was living 2 hours out of the city with my dad, our upload speed and our download speed was 2 megabytes. 2 megabytes raw. And that's on a good day. I remember I would download from Steam at 200 kilobytes a second. And while I was downloading on Steam, I couldn't even watch a YouTube video. 200 kilobytes a second download on Steam. It took me 2 weeks to download Modern Warfare. 2 weeks to download Modern Warfare. I'm just saying.
Fair, when outside looks like this, why do you need the internet? I know why, to listen to pommies like me talking all over things. Haha. Bold.
Alright. Was that informative for you? They got the pokies wrong. They got the pokies wrong. Yeah, that was a good video. That was a good video. A little thing here and there, but like something that wouldn't fly too well today as 5 years ago. So it's probably still like, obviously this isn't made by an Australian, because if it was, you would be more inclined to talk about the dark history of Australia, which is like the genocide of the indigenous culture, which yeah, that's not great. We actually go, I won't say we go out of our way because that's just terrible wording, but I'll say we actually have a dedicated section of our education system now throughout all year levels, dedicated to learning about Indigenous studies. That's good, I guess. As a teacher, it doesn't bother me. I'm fine with it. Even in, like, I study music. My area of study is music, sorry. So we even have to, a part of the curriculum is learning about Indigenous music. At some point, the child has to learn about Indigenous music. It's like, it's fine. Just another part of the curriculum, we'll tick a box off. So if this was made by a quote-unquote an Australian, there would definitely be more mention of the atrocities. But for the most part, it was probably mostly accurate. Like, the only big thing is like the slots machines. That's something that got 100% lost in translation. A couple of good memes in there as well. Couple good memes. We could watch another one. Full history of Australian documentary. No. 101 facts. Let's check out North Korea.
Hello there, glorious Mother Factor Nation. I do hope